Do you feel like you're barely keeping your head above water? That no matter how hard you try, meaningful progress remains out of reach? Heather gets that. She battled an eating disorder for years before seeking help. Now in recovery, Heather is here to tell you that positive change is possible even when it doesn't feel that way. Join her as she shares openly about her struggles and small triumphs. Fair warning though, Heather doesn't hold back. Her candid story may trigger some. But for those wanting honesty, hope, and healing, this is 1% Better with Heather. The information and stories shared on 1% Better are based on host Heather's personal experiences with eating disorders and mental health challenges. Heather is not a licensed doctor, therapist, dietitian, or other health professional. Her advice and opinions should not be taken as professional medical advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified health provider regarding any medical or health-related issues. 1% Better also contains descriptions of eating disorders that may be triggering for some listeners. Discretion is advised.
Hey there, Mellow Gaffers, and welcome to 1% Better with Heather. Today I have a very special guest over in different country, but, still like in the studio with me. Feels like you are.
Yeah, clear.
I have Allicia Johnson Niles here with me. Welcome,
Hi, so
Alicia.
great to be. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
So let's just jump right in. Let's get you to introduce yourself and tell us everything about you.
Okay. Well, my story is complex, but not. I am a survivor of murder. That sounds really weird. My dad was murdered when I was 2 years old in the U.S. Navy. That's him back there behind me if you're watching the video. But he was murdered when I was 2 years old. And I spent my life I didn't realize the ramifications of his death until I was probably I didn't fully realize how much of an impact his death made on my life until I was about 30 years old. And when I was 30, I was given permission by a friend, and as weird as that sounds, society is set up in such a way where grief it's almost like there's a time limit. And all I knew growing up was that I was different. And I was afraid of everything, and I dealt with, it kind of snowballed. It snowballed into things like, a horrible relationship with food, narcissistic relationships, just a bunch of things. And a really powerful sense of self-hatred and self-questioning. I didn't really know who I was. And when I was 30, I talked to a guy who had lost his mom, and he validated my grief. And so I started digging into that. And I realized through that, when I allowed myself to grieve my dad, when I allowed myself to learn about what happened about his murder and things like that, that's when I started to feel more confidence. That's when I started to be able to embrace who I really was. And I started to find a community of people who understood me. I'm writing a book. It's called Angel in Arlington. And it goes into a really long, crazy, wild adventure that I went on to, first of all, find answers for myself, but also be able to connect with my dad again. And ultimately come to some sort of justice. And it was through facing my biggest fears, one being my dad's killer. I grew up just constantly afraid of him. I didn't know I knew of his name, but I didn't know anything about him. But I had this constant fear of him kind of looming over me, and I was always afraid of the Navy. And after I turned 30, through a series of powerful, I'd say, nudges, like from my dad, from this, from God, whatever you call it, to just pushing me to dig in and find out more. It's like, there are too many questions. You need to find answers. And it was through that I was able to find out what really happened and also find peace. So, and finding that peace also gave me more confidence than I could ever begin to even express. And so I'm here because I don't want other people who feel like they don't have the right to miss their loved ones, who feel like they're too afraid to venture into the hard parts of their lives. I say that cautiously because, you need to make sure you've got a strong support system therapy, family, what have you, before you dig into those. But at the same time, it's so healing. It's things that we're most afraid of. My main message is called unlikely courage. And that's, growing up this kind of mouse of a person who was afraid of everything, I took on the US Navy and did some research into my dad's killer. And so, and it was amazing that I could do it. So
Whoa, that's a lot.
that's a lot. You can trim it out if you want.
So, so let's rewind a bit. How old were you when your father was tragically taken?
I was 2 years old.
2. Mm-hmm. And then how did that look for you after that? Are you an only child? Do you have brothers and sisters? Mm-hmm.
So my mom got married really young. My mom and dad met in college, and she was 6 years younger than him. So she was a freshman, he was a senior, and they got married after he graduated. And then they had me right out the bit. Like 9 months later, I came along, and then 18 months later, my brother came along, and we were living in Hawaii at the time. My dad was stationed in Pearl Harbor, and when my brother was 6 months old, I had just barely turned 2. We moved back home to my parents, where my grandparents were living at the time, because my dad still had about 11 months. Things were really not going great on the ship. They felt like my mom needed to be home, and 2 months later, my dad was murdered. So,
holy,
yeah.
So, being very young, mm-hmm. What do you remember about that? Like, so maybe, mm-hmm. And let me back that up a bit. So when mm-hmm. your dad was on the ship, did he come mm-hmm. home at night, or he was there and he lived there? So like, how often did you see your dad?
Well, if you're wondering, I have no memories. I don't have a single memory of my dad. But we lived in military housing on land. And then when my mom moved back to the States with my brother and I, and it was not a normal thing. I mean, they just felt really strongly that we needed to. So my aunt that I'm named after, she was getting married on the mainland. And so my mom and my dad, they did some praying. They just felt very strongly that my mom and my brother and I needed to stay in the States or stay on the mainland until my dad was done with his tour of duty in November. So that was in January. So they were supposed to be separated for 11 months. So then he moved on the ship. So he actually lived on the ship after my family moved. So it was tragically set. Like it was a good thing for my mom. Ultimately, I mean, if he was going to die, things were set up in a way where things were already taken care of, which it's tragically beautiful, I guess, for weird, if that doesn't sound weird. So what happens after that? Like, where does your mom go from there? Where did you guys go from there? My mom is the strongest woman I know. She is just absolutely amazing. She's gentle, sweet. She's this teeny tiny little sweet, just Disney princess of a. She's incredible. But we lived in my grandparents' basement for a little while. So my mom comes from a huge family. She's number 4 out of 9, and yeah, big family. So what happened was we moved back in with my grandparents for a little bit, and after my dad was killed, they used some of the money that my mom got to kind of build an apartment for us, and we lived there until she could build a house. I mean, this strong young widow built this house, and we lived there, and it was like about 4 miles from my grandparents. And then my mom remarried when I turned 6, and then we stayed in the same general area until. Let's see, I lived in San Antonio for a minute when I was 31, but other than that, I was out in Utah.
So then, what does your life look like? Like, did your mom remarry?
She did.
Mm-hmm. She did. And
yeah, she did.
That went okay?
That was okay. This is where some of my little soapboxes come in, and feel free to edit all of that introduction. I'm like, that was probably really confusing.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Anyway, so it's funny because it's weird. I can put myself back, and I think, you went through your childhood trauma. I think people have gone through anyone who's gone through childhood trauma can kind of go back and just kind of remember the thoughts they're thinking and remember their feeling. Do you get that? Is that something like when you go back, you can still remember kind of the thoughts that you were thinking and stuff? Yeah. And so when I look back, like I had already assigned certain things. And when she got remarried, first of all, there's society, which I don't want to like villainize them or anything like that. It's just people don't know, especially not in the 70s. Like, oh, good. She doesn't remember her dad. She's too young. That's so good. Oh, she's spared. Oh, good thing. Oh, you're lucky. Oh, yay, you have a new dad. Oh, isn't that wonderful? And yeah, it was. But at the same time, like up until I don't know when experts on childhood grief started coming to the surface, but praise the Lord they did, because childhood grief is wicked. And, so my little logical thoughts were, I've got a story I could share with you about how I kind of realized, had that little aha moment. This is what was going on. But I remember when I remember when she was dating. I remember the guy she was dating. I was just like, whatever. I thought I was her partner. I was her sidekick. I thought, she talked very openly with me. We talked about my dad all the time. This picture was on our piano. The night she got married, picture was gone. And yeah, and again, 1970s, gotta respect the new dad, gotta leave him place. I mean, she openly loved my dad. And my stepdad knew it, and it was just, remarriage after death, it can be really hard. And it's a beautiful, wonderful thing, and especially for the new spouse, it's big shoes to fill, because those are shoes that nobody wanted to be vacant, And so, I mean, it's kind of hard knowing exactly what to do. And so, but I remember walking into the living room and seeing my dad's picture gone. And I just decided, nope, I'm not allowed to talk about him. And I just felt almost kind of like, I can't even describe it was just very heavy. And so then the new stepdad came in. And, of course, I mean, I was 6 years old. My brother was four and a half, Kids aren't perfect. They have to be disciplined. And my stepdad would try to discipline me. And oh my gosh, another big thing was when my mom told me I couldn't sleep in her bed anymore before, she told me this before she got remarried, of course. That was not okay with me. And then she told me she was changing her last name, and I about lost it. Don't you love daddy anymore? And now that I look back, I'm like, I wish I could take that back. But it was really hard, because so when I actually, my college education was kind of up and down, but I went back to get my bachelor's degree when I was 30 and researching my dad's death at the same time. And I went to this eating disorders and body image class. And I remember sitting there, and the teacher was talking about how between the ages of 8 and 12 are when you solidify who you are in relation to others, your place in relation to others. And a timeline of my life just all of a sudden just flashed before my eyes. Like when you're a toddler, everything is all about you. You think, so I even remember when I was like around 3 years old, comparing myself to my cousins and everything like that. And the only thing that makes sense to me is that my daddy was taken. I wasn't like them. I wasn't normal. And my daddy was taken because I wasn't good enough to have him, because he was this Superman. He was this wonderful person. And that's, I mean, I can't say 100%, but that makes sense to me. And when I've talked to therapists and I've talked to people, they're like, toddlers are egocentric. Anything that happens is because of them. And so moving along, my mom gets remarried, which I kind of felt even less important. And so it's like half of who I am was gone. Therefore, I didn't matter. Another thing that contributed to that was, I mean, I was so grateful. I cannot say enough. I mean, you're a mom. You've got kids. You know how kids are. I don't have kids. I have brothers. But like, you don't try to pull things over your kids. They're going to know. And so I was very grateful that my mom was forthcoming and told me what happened to your dad. Your dad was killed by a bad guy. He pled insanity and got away with it. And so, but as I'm growing up, I'm like, where's the justice here? What happened to the guy who killed my dad? We don't matter. I don't matter. And so it's like those things were internalized. and cemented without people even knowing,
Right.
And so then my mom got remarried, took my dad's picture down, changed her last name. I felt even less important. And then as I was listening to some of your episodes and stuff, like with Sherry, when she was talking about like the scarcity, like how there's people that have money.
Imposed famine,
Yes.
like real famine, and like causing it yourself famine.
Yes, exactly. So here my mom is pregnant with, I can't remember how old my dad was at the time, my stepdad. I don't remember exactly when, but we were sitting at the dinner table, and I had been feeding my emotions. I was grieving, didn't know it. I learned more about grief and food, and I was starting to kind of pack on the pounds a little bit, and I reached for seconds, and my dad would be like, no, and I'd be like, well, my brother has some, and he's like, well, he's a growing boy. And old school thinking, triggering old school thinking. And I even mentioned that to my husband. He's like, but boys need more calories. I'm like, shut up. You don't even go there. But that was kind of, I started to get into binging, and I would hide and eat. And it was just a vicious cycle. Long story short, it was grief. It was unresolved grief. And do I blame my parents? No, I don't. They're wonderful. Like, I couldn't have been asked for better parents, but like, I got to be honest about how these things impact kids. And, I grew up thinking I was a second class person, and I was open to abuse. And then, like I said, it wasn't until I started to really dig into what was going on and understand what was going on that I was able to heal. So.
Well, and I'm not a professional, but
but you've lived
I'll
things.
say though, your parents taking away the photo of your dad, so now you had to grieve him twice, not once, twice, and now you're not grieving. It's like he didn't exist. That's two different things in my brain. Like, now we're not allowed to talk about it, right? Like, it's locked away. No, never happened. A new person like that, like, oh, that's so much for a little kid to take on. But, oh, Lordy.
Yeah, but they didn't. That's the sad thing, is they didn't know. I think a lot of people. Right. So that's one thing. I mean, that was probably one of the first soapboxes out of my many that I have. When I have grieving parents, grandparents, anybody coming to me, I'm like, you put that picture somewhere. I understand. In fact, I've got a friend who's dealing with this now, who she's got a new relationship, and I'm like, you know what? You leave room for daddy. If it's in, like, maybe your child isn't asking for a picture of him. Maybe they're not, maybe they seem like they don't care, but I'm like, you find a box, you find a corner. You make sure that child knows that anytime they want to talk about daddy or mommy or sister or whoever, that they're allowed to. And it's not like my mom said we're not allowed to. It was the action. And she's still, I feel so bad. She listens to all of my podcasts, and she's the sweetest thing. And she's still just, I don't want her to beat herself up. She didn't know.
Right.
She was just honoring my stepdad's place in the home, trying to make him feel comfortable. So it's hard.
No, it is. It's because it's not a divorce. The guy, like, it's not like you're going to see him on the weekend or something, right? Like, that I get. But because there's no pictures of my ex-husband laying around here, I'll say.
You're like, no, that's.
But yeah, like that. That's just horrible. And I heard this really beautiful quote, and Regina King said it. Grief is love that has nowhere to go. I think I'm paraphrasing.
That's beautiful.
But I was like, isn't it? I started crying because her son chose to end his life.
Oh, wow.
And
that's hard.
She was on the Today Show, I think, a couple days ago. And I was like, oh my God, that is the most, that's, I don't know where she got it from, but it should be written down. Like, that's it. That's so true.
Yeah. It's, well, and when we get into talking about TAPS, that's, their biggest thing is love lives on. Yeah, we'll get into talking about TAPS and what a game changer that was. So,
yeah. So, and I grew up heavy. I've talked about it. I've been a size 22. I've been a negative 22.
Wow.
And it's hard when growing up heavy, and we're around the same age.
Mm-hmm.
It was hell.
Mm-hmm.
And those scars will live with you forever.
Oh, yeah.
And there's certain people that I know what they said to me on what date. And I'm like, there's not a lot of people I'd go and wear orange for. But there's a couple people I'm like,
that. Sorry.
Right? Just might.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so, those wounds just, right? And
they're foundational, and unfortunate. Yeah. I don't want to say that. That sounds like a life sentence, but until you can really address and be patient with the healing process, I believe they're always going to be hurdles or barriers in your progression or in your happiness, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, and it shapes who you are, mm-hmm. right? And how you think about yourself and your self-esteem. And then you go down another road and take all the wrong roads, probably, right? Mm-hmm. For self-validation, let's mm-hmm. say, right? Mm-hmm. So what happened then? Like, what was high school and everything all right? And like your parents are lovely people. They sound like lovely people.
Oh, they're amazing. Yeah.
So it was like,
led to what?
Yeah.
So, mom remarried, turned to food, and couch potato. So I was afraid of everything and diagnosed at 35 with PTSD. I'm like, man, I wish I would have known that back at age 5. But like, very strong lack of belief in myself. So overweight. So 6th grade, I got bullied severely. Even some of the teachers were a little bit unkind because I was not an easy person to love. I was that fat kid who was annoying, and I was annoying because I didn't like myself. And so then I remember when I was in 7th grade, I would take myself to the counselor's office, and I was thinking he thinks I'm weird, because I was. I mean, it was unfortunate. I was the kid who needed help, but I was also hard to love back then. And then my mom, my parents decided that they were going to move. So it was the end of my 7th grade year, and my brother and I were both struggling. By that point in time, my parents had 4 more boys. I have 6 brothers. So, whoa. Yeah, they had 4. So my 6th brother was born when we moved to a smaller town south of where we're at. But anyway, I was 13, and my mom's just like, okay, we're going to move south of town. And I was really upset because, my friends are here. I had some good friends, but still. Anyway, so 13, and my mom's like, you're going to go live with your grandma for a month or 2. And I'm like, wait, what? Because my 2 aunts, her baby sisters, who didn't eat sugar, were there. I shouldn't be laughing.
You went on like
fat camp.
Yeah.
I hope I'm probably triggering all of your listeners.
Fat camp.
Oh, yes. I went to fat camp, and my husband teases me, and he's like, that's not fat camp. You went to live with family. I'm like, that was fat camp. And so, even my doctor.
That's an intervention that you didn't know about.
Yes. Oh, it was full-blown intervention.
Yeah.
I had an hour to pack up my stuff and move. I'm like, what is going on here? Oh, no.
What?
Yeah. And again, best family in the world. My beautiful, sweet aunts. Like, I shared a room with my aunt who's like 6 years older than me, my mom's baby sister, and, 13 years old. And my college aunt was just like, she woke up and she's just like, oh dear, I just had the worst dream. I'm like, uh-huh. And she's like, I had a dream that you were eating a brownie, and I had to reach down your throat and grab it out. Again, this is triggering across the board, so I hope you can delete that if you want to.
No. That's what this podcast is about, man.
Okay.
We're talking about everything. Everything goes.
So, I look at this as it was a wonderful thing for me, because not the reaching down my throat. It was really funny because my aunt is the sweetest, most gentle being you'll ever meet in your life. And it was funny. She's like, come on, we're going to go walking now. And she'd walk circles around me. But along the way, like the month and a half I lived there, I was able to develop a little bit more of regulation, because I wasn't constantly just sitting and eating like I was doing at my house.
Right.
And so I lost a decent amount of weight, and then we moved. And so I had just enough edge where I wasn't that same very challenging person that I was being made fun of every day. So I wasn't at the level where I could be made fun of every day when I moved. I was the new girl. And then, I was talking to my therapist years ago, and she was just like, you were marinating. Like marinating. And she's like, a lot of people who end up growing up tall will have a little bit of a chubby stage, and which is exactly what happened.
Well, I'm 5'10". I wonder if that's.
No, seriously. Were you said that you were overweight when you were younger and you teased.
Yeah.
And you growth spurted, right?
Yeah, I was overweight, well, until I was like 22.
But still.
But all through high school, all through elementary school. Like grade 4, I would say, is when my mom said that that's when she started worrying.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I was always taller than everybody else. I was taller than all the boys. I was built like a linebacker.
You're teeny.
Right? Like, well, I have big shoulders.
Oh, you can't tell. Anyway, I'm like...
But, so, like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so you marinate, and then so I'd continued some of my healthier habits, which I just ate less sugar and things like that, and I've heard in your other podcasts where there's so many different diets you want to pull your hair out and scream, but the diet of choice was to be off sugar, and I also started to run a little bit, and also I had my growth spurt, and so. You look at pictures of me in 7th grade versus the end of 9th grade, and I'm a completely different person. Well, enter obsession with staying thin. I mean, right now, the camera angle's making me feel uncomfortable because...
Oh, you're beautiful.
No, thanks. I'm also almost 20 pounds bigger than I was when I first got married, which is... anyway, I'm like, you can delete whatever you want to. I really don't.
We're not deleting anything.
Okay, I need to be careful.
Unless I have to.
Okay, so I'm like, this is total eating disorder, unhealthy talk. But like my comfort zone, and also health-wise, I've talked to therapists about this and things like that as well. I'm still working on getting out of the binging cycle. Well, not binging, right. But just to help. I'm trying to get to where I'm healthy and comfortable. But it was always aware. Always aware. And never good enough, perfectionist, big time. When I got married, of course, like I'm stressing out. And also it was the beginning of COVID and Utah got an earthquake. And so, I was definitely not eating as much. And so then I moved to Georgia. If you don't know anything, if you know anything about the South, they like to eat here. And it's further spread apart. And the gyms, Utah is like gyms everywhere and nature trails everywhere. And it is like raw, healthy, strong, healthy. Mm-hmm. It's an easy place to stay healthy. And out here, you go walking down the road, you're going to get chased by a pit bull. But not necessarily, because yes, I've been chased by a few dogs. So it was just a completely different. And my husband is a big old Southern boy, 6'3", wonderful, very kind, big Southern dude. So it was so long. I don't know. It's just crazy how it's unfortunate that food is can have such power, or it's such a driving force one way or the other. It's like I want all the donuts, but I also want to fit into these jeans. And also it's hard not to base your worth on which pants you're wearing. Yes, on a number.
Yeah.
Yeah, which can make people almost die.
Yes, they can. That'd be me.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that you're sharing your story and being candid and open about this. I played with bulimia a little bit. I don't know what the difference is between disordered eating and eating disorder. But I've always had a little bit of an obsession with food, and I think scarcity, and I think that kind of goes back to, actually, I heard something so interesting at a TAPS event. A nutritionist was talking about how, oh my gosh, it's on one of my YouTube videos, but how when you're grieving, it's the same thing as kind of being stressed, or it's just like your body needs sugar nonstop when you're grieving. Mm-hmm. And so you're constantly you're in fight or flight while you're grieving. Same thing as anxiety or whatever. So it was interesting learning about that too, and just going, okay, there are times when you're just like, Don't give me none of those apples. Give me the donuts.
Apple ain't cutting it.
No, never. If I'm going to eat fruit,
Unless there's like caramel around it.
Yes,
hand
and
it
it's
over.
baked and has cinnamon on it. But,
yeah, right.
But no, but it's just, I'm more of a watermelon girl. But anyway, but yeah, it's just kind of, I feel like it's a constant battle. And, I'm a religious person, and I'm like, it's one of the devil's tools. He really, because I think, like you've mentioned, and it's obvious, it's like, it's not like you can completely cut off from food. Food is always in your life.
Yeah. And
being able to develop that relationship around it, I think finding that balance for me has been one of my biggest challenges. And even, getting married and moving here and gaining 30 pounds in 4 months was really a challenge for me. And also there's some things that kind of came up. My CPTSD came up a little bit because all of a sudden I'm married to a wonderful man, and that's all I'd ever wanted. I mean, I got married at 46. I didn't think I was lovable for a while. And then I meet this wonderful man, and I do believe in God's timing. And I do believe that he has a plan for us. And, one thing I want to say is I don't want to project that belief onto anybody else, but I share what's my truth. And, so many cool things happened that brought me to my husband with the timing and everything like that. And it ended up being another time to stretch and grow and just realize the anxiety can all of a sudden rear its ugly head again. And all of a sudden my fears of losing someone I love to death intensified. And so I had to learn how to regulate that and use the tools that I'd gone to. And along with that came eating. And also kind of, realizing just like stressful situations like getting married, moving cross country, pandemic, all these things. I'm not trying to feel sorry for myself, but it's just kind of like I felt out of control. My weight went out of control. And now regulating it is helping me feel healthier in general, if that makes sense.
Yes. No. And everything that you're saying makes total sense. That's a lot of change very, very, very quickly. And listen, everyone's got a vice, man. Some people drink, some people do drugs, some people eat, right? And moving to the South, the only thing I know about the South is cornbread.
Yes.
And whatever I see on TikTok, because all the food looks amazing there.
Oh,
I'll have to take a trip one day.
Come on down.
Coming.
Oh, the Canadian's coming, and we are taking you to the cottage house.
That sounds yummy.
Oh my gosh. It's like old people love it, if that says anything. Advertisement for the cottage house. Oh, it's the best. My husband even said it's the best Southern food he's ever had. And he is like, you hear him talk, he's got that accent. He and his dad, they are Southern boys. And you walk in and there's like, for $12, you see like you get a meat and 3 sides, and they're not little portions, and it's all homemade anyway. So the cottage house, it is good. And then you go a few miles down the street, and we're close to the same age. Did you ever have a Cabbage Patch Kid?
Yes, ma'am.
Babyland General, right down the street.
No way. Oh, well, that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah, no, it's seriously, yeah, it is really, it's one of those little jewels here. There's so many little jewels out in the South. It's just an amazing, beautiful, quaint, charming place. Charming is the way I'd put it. But yeah.
I don't know. I've always had this weird obsession with the South, and living in Canada, like I've never been in the South. I'm not even close to South. And yeah, it's always been one of the places that I wanted to visit. I love the history. Like, I know it's bad history, but I like knowing stuff.
It's
right.
Cool.
And yeah, like I don't know. I just had always this weird obsession with the South, and I have no idea why.
Oh,
we are like, I'm 45.
Oh, okay.
So I have, yes, I still have my Cabbage Patch Kid.
Babyland General. It is like the human tie. It's awesome.
Go, man.
Oh yeah.
That's like Gen X heaven right there.
Yes, it totally is, especially around Christmas time. It is hilarious. Like, I'm not even kidding. There's a tree in there that has babies, and the nurse is there with her Southern accent, and it's like, it's a little disturbing, but it's funny. You just have to prepare yourself. But it's this a big, huge antebellum style, like, mansion, and you walk in, and this little nurse is sitting at the desk, and you walk back, and there's the nursery, and you see this museum that has the old-fashioned Cabbage Patch Kids. And anyway, it's it is an experience and a half. You're like driving in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden, boom, it's right there, and this big sign that says Babyland in front of it, and it's hilarious.
Do you know how healing this Babyland can be for our generation who didn't get a Cabbage Patch?
Yes.
Like, seriously. Like, I know girls who are still upset about it. I still make fun of my mom because it came out that Christmas and I didn't get one till my birthday.
Yeah.
My birthday's in June. And it's like, my mom wouldn't go fight a bitch and go pound someone for a freaking Cabbage Patch. She's like, Heather, one person I knew got a Cabbage Patch that year, and it's because they worked at Eaton's, which was like a big store here, right? And I was like, doesn't matter, didn't love me enough.
Oh, that's hilarious. I happened to get one that year because my grandma worked at a toy store.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know why I was the special one, why I was one who got one. But
well, yeah, both brothers. I guess that's helpful.
Cousins? Yeah, that's true. Maybe it was all brothers too. But yeah, no. But my mom's mom worked at this little toy store. But yeah, I was shocked that I got one. I'm like, okay, you know what? I may be 12, but Santa's real. But
yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that was a good Christmas.
Yeah. Gen X. We'll have to.
So
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm telling you, like, maybe we're on to. We should start like selling like
tours,
Gen X healing tours.
Seriously, beware the mac and cheese. But here we're gonna,
and we'll go to the cottage. We're just gonna plug them again.
The cottage house,
cottage house,
cottage house. It's been named number like one restaurant, and it's this teeny little. You wouldn't unassuming, and it's just.
It sounds like Meemaw's cooking up something.
Yes,
and I'm there, man.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's cool. And in fact. It's just, there's a reason you're drawn to the South. And I was too. I always thought the sexiest accent in the world was Southern. Had no idea I'd marry a Southern boy. I am very grateful. I had no idea, but yeah, it's
a Southern man in a suit. Done. Done. Well, not now. I love my husband very much.
How'd you guys
He's
meet?
listening, so I have to tell him.
How'd you meet your husband?
Well, because I've had a lot of issues in my life.
Mm-hmm.
This husband's my third husband.
That's awesome.
I was married 3 times by 40. So is my sister.
That's awesome.
So that says a lot.
Well, you get to learn.
Right?
I didn't marry all the guys that I could have. So I married
first 2 were just practice
husbands.
But I hit the jackpot with this guy. I met him actually on online dating where I thought, what has my life come to that I'm online dating? Because I've watched Dateline. I'm like, I'm going to be like chopped up and thrown in a ditch. But we met. That was it. Done.
That's awesome.
And we've been together 9 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I also met my husband online.
Yeah. It's one of those things now, right? Like online dating. I always thought we were talking about this the other day, like people online dating 20, 25 years ago. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Who were like,
you're desperate.
What weirdo are you meeting?
Yeah.
Right now, that's the way of the world. It's so funny.
Well, exactly. Well, I had kind of given up, when I met my husband online when I was 45. And I got to the point where I'm like, I just want a good man who will, let me practice my faith and who, just someone who treats me well, who I'm attracted to, of course, And I actually I was on a Christian dating site and I extended my boundaries to international, and that's how I met my husband. And, we talked every day. It was one of those normal, you hear the little stories, we talked every day. And he came out of nowhere. It was kind of cool. Like, I always fantasized. I don't want to say I always wanted, I always wanted my dad to have something to do with how I met my husband. And he didn't, it wasn't how, but it was kind of cool because, like I'd been focusing on this, A Reason to Stand event and working on my book and working on my advocacy and things like that. And I was on this dating site. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm on here. What am I, that was my way of kind of trying to say, sort of, I don't want to be alone forever because I didn't like going to parties. And, anyway, after this A Reason to Stand event, he messaged me and I'd kind of noticed like people like he'd message me and I blah, 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 whatever. And then one day he's like, so are you sick of this conversation? And I looked at his profile. I'm like, 6'3", Georgia, tall, Southern, probably equals accent. No, I'm not. So we started talking, and our first phone conversation was on this guy's birthday. So
See, like
Mhm.
I believe, I'm a believer. I've talked about it, and because I always say because I have to, but I've
I have to.
seen when you've lived through, like you lived through tragedy,
Mhm.
right? There's too many signs after a while when you live in denial, and then you come over to the what happens if I just open myself up? There's too many things, too many good
Mhm.
that happen,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
For me to be a believer, right?
Yeah.
You can believe in whoever you want to believe in. I don't care. But for me, man, let me tell you, you know, it's changed my life. It's totally changed my
To be able
life.
to have that divine guidance and to be able to listen and act and not be afraid. I mean, you got to be
Yeah.
smart, and that's one thing. Back to with my husband, and the cool things. Another thing was, I found out later after we talked and everything. Well, when we're talking about like, just real quick, just like the online dating and how it's been kind of taboo, and they're like, "Oh no, you're going to go out to Georgia and meet this guy. That's so dangerous." I'm like, I've talked to him every single day. I even talked to like a private investigator that I'd worked with before.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I did my research.
Yeah. Well, you're not dumb then.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. You got to be
Like,
smart. Don't do your research. And then I talked to a former, his name is Bob Delaney. It was a TAPS event right before I was about to fly down and see my husband. And he's like, "You'll be fine. Don't worry about it." Because anyway, I think more people are doing it. If you can talk to somebody every day and connect and really understand them, I think it's more comfortable, at least to me.
yeah.
But as it turns out, my husband's dad and mom met in Hawaii, and got married, moved. So like they met in Hawaii, bought a ring out there. They moved back to Georgia, and 6 months after they left Pearl Harbor, we got there. This diamond right here,
Yeah.
this was purchased in Hawaii. This is his mom's diamond. So anyway, there's my last little God wink of how my dad was connected. So
telling you.
Anyway,
I'm telling you, like I have a totally different outlook on life where because I was always like cynical. Like, okay, I'm still cynical, but
things are not all roses.
It's just it's not always, and living in fight or flight my whole life, which I didn't know up until like a year ago, is not normal. And
it's not, just kidding.
Right. And always waiting for the other shoe to drop because there was no way I was allowed to be happy. I can't be happy. If I'm happy and let my guard down, something bad's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And really, I thought, well, I'm lying on my deathbed. What else is like the worst thing that's going to happen here?
Oh.
Right.
You can get much lower than that, but then you're
right.
Like,
knocking on heaven's door.
Yeah. Wow.
And I just thought, well, whatever I'm doing ain't working. So let's try this way.
You turn to God.
Turn to God.
That's beautiful.
And the guy's probably sick and tired of hearing my voice.
He loves it because you're sharing good things with others, and you're I don't know. No, I can't speak for him, obviously.
You got a hotline?
No, I don't. But no, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think I was not on death's door, knock on wood, but you're saying like waiting for that other shoe to drop too. That's what happened when I got remarried. Remarried, knock on wood. No, but that's what happened when I got married. Yes, was that for the first year of our marriage, I was just like, what's going to happen? When's he going to go? When's he going to go? And when I spoke with Bob Delaney last summer at TAPS, that's when he's just like, this is normal. You're fine. Triggers are going to come up. That's what he doesn't like using the term PTSD. He says post-traumatic stress because he doesn't like disorder. I personally call it disorder because I hate it. But he was just saying you just have that toolbox and you know where to go because you don't know what's going to trigger you. And it's okay. You're not broken. And even, I went back to see my therapist who was just life-changing, amazing, amazing person. And she and my husband and I were sitting there and she's just like, looking at him mostly, just because people are like, why can't you get out of this anxiety? And she's like, it's not mental, it's physical. It's not mental, it's physical. And you need to, learn how to combat those physical reactions that you get when you're going into being triggered. And I just thought that was, again, very validating. Like, it's okay. It's okay to have, this is what happened. This is what made me who I am. Good, bad, ugly, And so, it doesn't, I feel like I don't feel any less of an advocate. I don't feel like I'm broken. I just feel like I'm riding along and having these experiences, and I'm sharing them just like you are. So other people can go, okay, wait a minute, there's a way out. There is a way. That sounds bad. You know what I mean? But there's a way to get out of this hell. And it's okay if I fall back a little bit. It's normal. It's part of the process. So, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not norm. There's no like, oh, I'm going to do this and everything's going to be hunky dory.
Right.
No, there's going to be, falling down, getting lost, getting turned around. But again, your toolbox, right? The people around you, the guides, like just knowing other people have gotten out of this. And I always say, like, I didn't get book smarts, but I got a big damn mouth, and I'm just going to keep yapping it because that's the only thing I know how to do. And sharing stories and being open. Too long have people suffered alone and thinking that there is something wrong with them when we're all a little bit mad down here, right? And it's okay. It's okay. Like, that's life.
Right.
And I just think too many people want to be perfect, and it's
we feel pressure to be. I think even, I keep saying this, but for me to, like, I was blessed with my grandma Hanson's double chin, that, it's like showing up, not being perfect. It's like, I think with like Instagram and all the social media and stuff like that, holding our little angles and camera or whatever filters, is perfection. I don't know. What am I trying to say?
It's not real.
It's not real. And I mean, it's important to want to be better and to want to go for the life that you want. It's important to have goals. That was another thing that I learned, just being married and going, where's my gym, and freaking out a little bit and realizing that it wasn't vanity that was driving me to want to take care of myself. It was all of a sudden I start to feel old and my body was not working as well. It was more, I think it's just kind of, it's good to have goals and it's good to have realistic things, but also to give yourself grace and to be able to remember that you're human. And I think that amazing miracles happen and you can expect them, but at the same time, I think I don't know where I'm going with this whole statement, but just like the perfection thing, it's everywhere and it's hard. Because even as I'm, working on getting my book and working on getting an agent and a publisher and things like that, it's like, I need to look perfect all the time. I need to do this. And if I talk about the fact that I slipped back, then nobody's going to want to listen to me. But, I talked to somebody recently and she's just like, that's part of the journey that people want to hear. Like you said, they want to know that things are attainable. And if they slip, they're not done,
Yeah.
It's just part of the progress. It's not like, it's more like, in my opinion.
Oh, I think though too, everyone just sees with social media, and it's different here, right? Like we don't have the TikTok creator fund in Canada. No one gets paid for anything around here.
I don't have TikTok.
And when I watch, I don't know, a 22-year-old make a stupid video, now they're like a gazillionaire. I'm like, what? And I understand how people want to recreate that, right? They want to be instant famous. They want to be this. They want to be that. But I don't think people understand what's going to come with that as well. I love reality TV. I love all the housewife shit.
You like the drama.
Rich people have problems and I'm supposed to care.
Right.
But now they're all talking about like what's the psychology or like the lifelong psych they're going to live with for the rest of their lives. Because a lot of people grew up on TV. What happens when there's not TV cameras in your house anymore? What happens when you're not wanted? like that's going to be a long fall down if you don't know who you are.
Right. And just the pressure behind a lot of it. I mean, I don't know. It's just like I feel like with you've got a mission. You've got a purpose behind what you're doing. You're like, I want to get out there. And I'm the same way. I'm like, neither one of us want people to go through what we went through as long as we did. And that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's just really hard because, yeah, you look at the social media, you look at the people who are becoming famous and being able to get huge followings, and it can be overwhelming and intimidating. But you're right. I mean, there is also another side behind that. Like, I was talking to somebody who was saying, people working on becoming influencers. I'm working with a lady who, a marketing lady, and she's awesome. And she's like, you don't need to be an influencer. She keeps drilling that you don't need to be an influencer. And I love following my influencers. They're amazing. And they work really, really, really hard. It's a full-time job because they have to produce something every single day. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's just, I think it's that whole, I mean, it's been around since TV came out or whatever, since the early days. It's like, here's the standard. Here's how you need to be. And I don't know. I think it's, where am I going with this?
Well, I think if it's, for me, and I think this is where you're going with this, is being a guide. Yeah, I want to be known. Mm-hmm. Of course, I want people to know about my podcast. I want people to know about you. I want to be out there. Mm-hmm. I want to be out there for the right reasons.
Right.
And helping and being a guide is part of my journey, part of your journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be seen or known, mm-hmm. but seen and known for what our destination or purpose is.
Exactly.
Destiny is.
And also, I think just making sure that we're not beating ourselves up for certain things. Like, I think it's just continuing to move forward with the message, knowing that the message is important. And also showing what we feel is like a realist. I don't want to say realistic because everybody's lives are different. But I think showing vulnerability is important. Mm-hmm. And I feel like on the positive side of social media, the accounts that I follow are people who show their vulnerability, are people that show, the ups and downs and things like that. And I think, I don't know, I'm excited for the future of where things are going and the messages that are able to get out there. My co-author, Bridget Cook-Birch, she's got, tools and things like that help people. And, it's just, and even starting to work with the podcast realm, I was really nervous to get involved with that because life is busy. But at the same time, the book's done. We're just,
oh, yay.
Yeah, it's done. We're just looking for a publisher because we want to go traditional. And so that's taking a little bit of time. And so that's another reason I'm here doing podcasts and just trying to kind of get out there more by sharing things that like, the unlikely courage message, which is, it's a lot of it's based in trauma, but knowing that you've got the tools to bring miracles into your life by just opening yourself up to them and taking the first steps, which is kind of what I did and what you did. You're like, okay, you know what? I'm getting out of this. I am going to live. I'm going to help other people. And so you started this and things start to happen that way. So.
Yeah. And that's all we can do is share our story, our journey, let people know that they're not alone. Mm-hmm. And one voice ends up with two, then it ends up with three, and then, build a village. You build it, they will come, right? And I fully believe everything in due time, everything for a reason. There's a reason for everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, am I going to interrupt her?
Oh, no, that's fine. Well, no. And so your book, mm-hmm. and we can only touch on a little mm-hmm. bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's done. We need a publisher, so yes. Publisher people,
agents,
get calling.
Working. Yeah, my co-author is
agents. Get calling.
Yeah, and it's like, what are things that I can share about it? It's again, unlikely courage is the main message, but it basically it talks about how me facing the things that scared me the most. Like I grew up with this underlying fear that my dad's killer was loose. come to find out he was. He absolutely was. If he had, I mean, I don't know if he knew of who I was, but we found out that he was free to do whatever he wanted. And then I faced the Navy, and the Navy terrified me, and the Navy stonewalled me. And some huge miracles. Well, and the main message behind that is back to the spirituality is guardian angels. I'm not going to tell people to believe it, but my experiences, there is no way of arguing it away any other way. Yeah. Like when I started researching my dad's death, I'd have this thought, do this now, call this person, a name I didn't even know. Like I've got on my website, you can download a free chapter of my book, and it's called Weghorst. Yeah, what is it? I can't remember the title of the chapter right now, probably because I'm so, anyway, but it is, I had a thought, Weghorst, he hasn't handled it well. Weghorst hasn't handled it well. Weghorst witnessed my dad's death. And I felt like I needed to reach out to the men who were on the ship who were in the room at the time. And that was just, it was crazy. Like, it was really cool because it's like I'd have these thoughts that came out of nowhere. You need to do this right now, or you need to call this person right now. And miracles just happened. It was, I didn't have time to waste. He didn't have time for me to waste. And there's no way I could have done this on my own. It was just absolutely amazing. And it didn't just heal me, but it helped heal some of my family and my friends, and hopefully those who read my books. So it's just.
Well, I'm so excited. And when we're allowed to talk about more, I want you to come back.
I would love to.
But I want to touch on a really important subject, which is TAPS.
Yes.
So TAPS is Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors.
Yes.
So could you please, I love it.
I do too.
You look so good in blue, my friend.
Thank you.
I just think that's great.
It was one of my wedding colors. I wore white, but this was, anyway, thank you.
No,
so,
it's lovely.
Anyway, but yes.
So yeah, can you tell us about organization? That's the word I'm looking for.
Nonprofit organization, same thing. So Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. The way I got into that, a little bit backtrack, I had some really cool experiences that led me to decide it was time to write my book. That was after I'd gone through research and getting in touch with my dad's friends, all the wild stuff that is in my book. But I was starting to reach out to the military community a little bit more. I was wanting to connect with people who had been in my shoes as a military survivor. I always use the term military orphan until I got involved with TAPS. But it was through what they call a God wink, our angels reaching out to us, God wink. I randomly saw this post or something like that from here I'm out in Utah, and I'd see this post from a lady who was in North Carolina talking about how her husband was killed when her daughter was 13 months old, and how she wanted to believe that she could connect with her dad. I'm like, I want to talk to you. So it took us a little while, but I sent her a message, and then she looked at the message on my dad's birthday years later. It was a year later, and we started talking, and she tells me about TAPS. So Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors was started by Bonnie Carroll, and Bonnie Carroll's husband was killed in a plane crash in 1994, so 30 years ago. And she was looking around for people who understood her because she was emotionally intelligent enough to know that she needed to find a community of people who understood her pain. Because obviously, if someone hasn't been in your shoes, they can't really, they can try to connect, but they don't. And so she took the money that she got from losing her husband and started this nonprofit. So when I went, it was in 2016, and I went back to DC. My dad's buried in Arlington. It was a great opportunity to visit his grave for the first time in many years. And when I first got there, they have every Memorial Day weekend, they have what's called the National Military Survivor Seminar. And it's in Washington, D.C., of course. They've got other seminars other places. And but the one in D.C. is the big one. And I remember showing up and put me to work because I feel awkward. There are all these people here who just lost their loved one. I don't belong here. My dad's been gone for 40 years. I don't belong here. And they're like, you're here to heal. And I'm like, put me to work. They're like, just, go to the conference. You're fine. And they're like, you'd be surprised how quickly you'll find people who you relate with. So I go online and I pick up my little lanyard, and they have the little, ribbons that they have that say different things. So adult child, Navy, first time attendee, whatever. And the girl who was handing me my bag, hers said adult child and Navy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm an adult child too. My dad was in the Navy. And she's like, yeah, well, mine's different. She acted kind of embarrassed. She's like, mine's different. My dad died a long time ago. I hardly remember him. I'm like, are you kidding me? So it's just, what's so great about it is their biggest thing is, and Bonnie preaches, I don't want to say preaches, but she is just like love lives on. As long as you still love them, you have the right to have them in your life. And it's just, they talk about subjects that people who are grieving go through, especially in the military community and things like that. And it's kind of hard to explain, but it was like just being there and being around people who understood like what I'd gone through. One example is, I love running. I went to one of the little fitness things. Oh, this is so cool. I'm enjoying this. And then I go to the homicide class. So they have different breakout groups for the type of class, whether it be suicide, homicide, injury, whatever. And I went into the homicide room and I can't even it was the yuckiest, heaviest, darkest feeling. And it's not like it was anything different. It was just your normal little classroom kind of thing. But it was so powerful because I walk in and it was almost like, it wasn't almost, the people who were in there, there's just kind of a unique heaviness that comes from losing someone, having someone violently take your loved one. And so, it was almost physical. You could almost feel the ugly in the air. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it was just really powerful, and being able to share and also kind of feel that heaviness lift as we were all openly, talking about the darkest feelings. It's, I don't know, that sounds really weird, but it was just so healing. So, I don't know how they've got it down pat, but they do. And they have speakers, like Bob Delaney is one of them. They have just some amazing speakers that come. And it's not just like, oh, yeah, go ahead and keep doing what you're doing, but it's like they validate the pain that's there. And also we're allowed to talk openly, and people are allowed to cry and let grief come when it's going to come. And they always call it the happiest group of sad people you'll ever meet in your life. And it is just, it's a very healing. It's very healing. And it's just, I didn't realize just how much I had, but being able to connect with your group and being able to connect with people who get you. I hadn't been, let's see, I went in 2016, 2017, 2019, right before I met up with my husband, and then not again until this past year. And when I went back again, I told you I'd had all of those triggers and all of the, things that had been coming up and what's going on. And then I went back there and talked to people, and my anxiety was cut in half. And it's just, it's a place of miracles, in my opinion, because I think knowing that you have the right to still love your loved one and not be seen as weird, that you're allowed to have your place for them, makes it so the heaviness isn't there anymore. It's like they have their place. You're okay. It helps you to be able to live life happier. So
I think that that's amazing. And what a way to take a horrible, tragic situation and turn it around to help other. Like, that woman's amazing. I'll just, if you ever talk to her, just tell her the Canadian thinks she's like the best.
Read her bio. You'd be blown away.
Okay.
You should totally, anyway, sorry. But
No, I will. And I love that you said, because when you met that other girl and she's like, oh, my situation's a little different. And I don't know if it's all of us who have been affected by whatever we've been affected in our life. We always have this guilt of, oh, we're not allowed to because, well, I didn't maybe know my dad, or I was so young, or I don't have a right to, or your situation's way worse than mine. I should feel bad for myself. And it's this trauma, and there's a psychological thing, and it's getting out of my head right now, but there's a reason for it, right? Mm-hmm. And no, everyone's grief, there's no yardstick to measure what you're allowed to be sad for, or grieve, or traumatized, or whatever over, right? There's no meter stick.
Right.
So just going somewhere where someone can give you permission, be like, yeah, no, it's okay. How cathartic is that? Like, how long did you cry for? Because I wouldn't have left. I would have just been bawling my face off for days.
Grief is just a funky emotion. It's just, and trauma and grief, they're like, they're the same. And one thing that you said that really is huge is like, we're constantly beating ourselves up for emotions. Oh my gosh, if I would have done this better. Oh my gosh, if I wasn't this way. Oh my gosh, if I was better, if I was better. One word that I hate is should. I should have done this. I should do this. I should, and you just sit there and beat yourself up rather than just moving forward and let things happen, I mean, you got to have some organization, but still, it's like we beat ourselves up so much more than we need to. And just thinking that we're the odd one out, we're weird, everybody else is perfect. We don't know what they're dealing with. We know what we're dealing with and what we're feeling inside. But yeah, I mean, like, how long did I cry? That's a crazy thing with my dad and my experience and everything like that. It was just the most liberating, beautiful feeling. I went to.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. This happens. No, this isn't upsetting. I talk about him and it happens. He's Irish. He's mostly Irish. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's.
It was so cool because, like, I mean, I don't mind crying about my dad. In fact, it's kind of cool because it even shows me that my relationship with him is real, because it's not something, it's not just in my head.
Yeah.
But it's just slight backstory. When I was 17, so I was 14 or 11 when I talked to my mom about my dad. And I had some really cool spiritual things happen that opened the door to talking about him again. I forgot to mention that. And so, like, I'd feel him around, or I'd have little things like, I allowed him in my life. And I went back to his grave when I was 17, and I'm like, here's a superhero. I'm going to be embarrassed because my uncle's going to be there. I'm not going to cry at his grave because I don't really know him. And as soon as I saw his name, I just sobbed. And then, I allowed myself to have that relationship with my dad as I got older. But I didn't allow myself to grieve and to miss. I still beat myself up. That's what changed when I was 30. But, like, anyway, so I go back for taps. And I hadn't been back to my dad's grave for about 11 years, probably. It'd been a while. And because I went in 2002 before, and I went with my mom, and that was cool. But anyway, by that point, I had been in the midst of writing my book. Book was still happening. There's still some things that were happening back then, but I had come to an absolute peace with my dad. And I'm like, well, it'll be interesting to see how different it is when I go to his grave. And he's buried in Section 1 in Arlington. And, I mean, in Canada, do you guys know about Arlington National Cemetery?
Yeah, I know what Arlington is.
Okay, sorry, that's an embarrassing question. Sorry, I don't know.
No.
I'm like, okay. Canada, I don't know. Do you guys have a national cemetery or in Canada?
I'm sure we do.
Okay.
I don't know what it's called.
I guess we're a little bit more loud about ours or something. I don't know. A lot. Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. Anyway, so in Arlington, it's like the big section where the Gulf War, or not the Gulf War, dated myself, after post 9/11.
Vietnam War?
Post 9/11.
Oh.
Yeah, post 9/11, like the recent, the ones who are dying like now. It's Section 60, and it's called the saddest acre in America. My dad is buried in Section 1, which is like clear up in the top, just far away from everything. And I love it. Like, you see pictures of Arlington, you see movies or whatever, and you see just the rolling hills, the rows and rows and rows of identical headstones, right? Well, my dad's buried in this section, and he's surrounded by large monuments, which to me, I'm like, I feel like a little bit of this, as weird as it sounds, I'm like, feels kind of cool to be able to have my dad buried in this very different section. So I went up there, I went with my friends to their Section 60 and visited their heroes, and then made my way clear up to Section 1. And I just figured, it's going to be like, oh, nice, whatever. I've done my grieving. And I turned on my phone, because I turned on my camera and my video, because it was just so quiet. and like you could hear the birds chirping, because again, Memorial Day weekend in Arlington National Cemetery is not quiet. So I'm up in this really quiet area and just, kind of thinking, I wonder if he's going to show up. I wonder if he's going to do anything or anything like that. And all of a sudden, bagpipes out of nowhere. I hear these bagpipes playing, and I'm like, felt like a crazy person. And I look up and I start like, I have my camera on, I'm running around, and there's this little procession of these little people playing bagpipes walking by. And, that was my dad. He was just like, welcome back.
That's crazy.
It was so cool. It was so, so cool. And like, that's one thing that is beautiful about grief sucks. I don't like doing it. I don't want to lose anybody. I'm always worried about the people I love, but at the same time, it's just like that relationship and being able to have that relationship and feel them so close that it hurts your heart to not be able to hug them. It's a beautiful thing that, like, since I can't have the one, at least I've got this. And I know I'm going to see him again, and I'll know him. I don't want to see him no time soon. Don't want it to be anytime soon.
No time soon.
you hang out there. But anyway, it's just, but you asked how many times I cried. It's hard to explain. I don't really know, but I think even just being able to be there for other people and tell those moms, I am happy that you found somebody, and good, congratulations. You make sure you have a picture of daddy in that child's room. You make sure that you have a time set aside once a month, once a week, whenever. You make sure that door is open for that child to ask questions about daddy. And that's one thing that I will not back down from, because that is, daddy's still there. And TAPS is very much like they're still with us. They even have a God Winks class in all of their seminars that they have. The national seminar, you pay for your hotel. I think it's like $25 or something like that. The food's covered. They have, people donate and things like that. But then they have other seminars in different regions. Like there's one in Florida in February, and I know they've got one in San Antonio in October. I think they've got different seminars, and it's on their website. You show up, you sign up, but your room and the food and everything is covered. So It's really cool.
And are you on their board for them?
I'm just a fan.
Are you? I'm just asking a question. Are you thinking about like going that route after like the book, and we'll make a TV movie and a movie about
Thank you.
But going that way,
I am a peer mentor, which is if they have somebody who's like an adult child who's wanting to talk through their grief. I would love to be more involved with them. Some of my best friends work very, very closely with them, including the girl who helped me, who opened the door, the mom of now her daughter's almost graduating from high school, but next year. But to answer your question, I'm still involved with them. But once this book gets published and stuff like that, I would like to have, a certain amount go towards TAPS, because it's a nonprofit and stuff like that. But I want to be involved with them more, because again, I've had this little, whoa, thank you for taking my anxiety away experience twice now. Yeah. So, and I think, you've got people listening who I'm not military. Oh no. Find people. You can still look at the website, because they've got articles and things like that apply to everything. Unfortunately, one of the biggest, one of the biggest ways people are losing are joining TAPS. Is that a good way of putting it? Loved ones are dying. Sure. Suicide. Suicide is huge.
Oh,
it is huge. And so they do have resources on the website for that. And I know that there's a big push. I know a lot of people, my friend's one of them, who's like pushing to help combat soldier suicide, PTSD, things like that. But there are those resources, but like the people who don't have their community, it's like find people, be prayerful. Find a good therapist. I used EMDR. You have to be careful with that one. But like find a good therapist, find your people, and don't stop until you find a group of people who understand you. And I I tried to get involved with like other civilian organizations, like A Reason to Stand is one of them, where people can kind of get together. But so far, nobody's been able to replicate TAPS, which is, although there are other, like, I know the Gary Sinise Foundation is out there for military and stuff like that. But I would just encourage your listeners just to
TAPS is where it's at.
TAPS is where it's at, but also find your tribe, find your people, like, you know. But yeah, in military.
Well, and sorry, I remember watching, because I watched an interview with you, and you said, like, this is such a big, I hope I'm not using an insensitive word, but event.
Yeah.
That people, like, take kids walk across the like, and graduate there. Like, this is quite the...
It's a family.
Legacy, city, family, village built.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, I about died the first time that I found out that, because it's Memorial Day weekend. How many people are graduating from high school that weekend? A lot. And so, yeah, they walked across the stage at TAPS instead of being at their high school graduation. So, in fact, I'm pretty sure my friend's daughter is going to do that next year. It's like, and they crave it. You know, even I've got... Well, yeah, they crave those kids. Like, I've got a couple friends, like my three of my closest friends are all widows, and all three of their kids lost daddy before they could remember. So I'm like the adult version of them. It's kind of, but they just need their people. They look forward to going and being with the kids. And just, I don't know, it's almost like a different level of breathing, you know? Because you've got your people and you can remember, and it's a sacred, beautiful, fun, happy, tearful time.
Yeah, and those are your people when you just have to give them a look and or like, I just think this is such a beautiful thing. And that says a lot, though, if kids want to do graduation, and I don't want to sound again insensitive. It's like the happiest, like, place on earth, right? Like, for people, like, this is where they get to get everything off them, so to speak, right? Like, I can't even imagine what it's like to be you or a widow or any along those lines. And the daily pressures constantly. And then go somewhere and it's just armor off, like everything's just taken away.
Yeah. And it's
like, that's...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just like, healing, like to me, all I can see is like the beam coming down from the sky. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like it's Shangri-La. Like, I'm just like, I am not even around the military. I'm like, I want to go check it out just to see this miracle, so to speak.
I know they have volunteers and stuff too. But it's just really, I think the biggest thing is like the validation and people who understand your heart, you know? And for people who are Christians, is, you know, I think that's one reason that people who are Christians love the Savior so much, is because he understands their pain. And I think that's kind of a weird comparison. But yeah, people who understand what your heart is feeling, because sometimes you don't even understand it yourself. And sometimes they can put it in words that you're like, oh my gosh, thank you for putting into words what I've been feeling or what I've been hurting with and things like that. But again, it really is, they call it a family reunion. You know, and again, those little kids, they've got their specific mentors that watch them grow up. And as an adult and watching these two little boys and my friend's daughter, I've had some interesting experiences where the one, oh my gosh, they're all just absolutely amazing. But his dad was killed in a plane crash a month before he was born. And so he's 15 now. And his mom, actually, two of my TAPS friends were the witnesses at my wedding. That's how close we get. So it's the other one would have been, but she couldn't make it. It was during COVID. But anyway, you know, I was a little hesitant to approach these kids, but like one of them was just really in a dark place, and I started talking to him. He's pretty young, and like, do you feel this in this way? And do you feel this in this way? And this is how you're feeling. And he's like, yeah, it is actually. And I'm like, okay, you have every right to miss your dad. If you think he's there, you believe it. You make sure that you believe it, because he wants you to know that he loves you. And and again, these are things that's not my place, but these are experiences that I've had, and that it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think God creates communities. It's just a matter of finding them, and it really is such a healing place. And just the way Bonnie Carroll set it up, like, there's no question in my mind she was inspired, because as of, I think it was last year, I heard the numbers where they've helped over 100,000 families. I mean, it's their 30th anniversary this year, but they've, it's incredible, and I would love to see more organizations open, but at the same time, TAPS is a very, very unique. We're talking, well, first of all, I think one of the reasons it's so powerful is because only 1% of the population joins the military. And then there's a percentage of those who lose their lives, whether it be by suicide, whether it be by toxic exposure, whether it be, like in my dad's case, by homicide. They lose their life for others. And I think there's just a sacredness about that you can't really find anywhere else. And so, I don't know.
I just want to say, when you say, I don't, if it's your place or not, I fully believe it's your place, because there's a reason why you're sitting beside a certain person, them telling you how they feel, and you can give them an answer. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, I agree.
So it is your place.
Yeah. Well, and that's what my book is for too, right, is to allow people to grieve, because it's that, it's been crazy. It's been really cool to see the miracles that have happened. It's been hell, but at the same time, it's just been amazing to see that if you allow those miracles in your life, and if you allow your loved ones to be there, and if you allow that support, and make sure you're going about it doing smart. Some people don't take that as liberty to go and do something dangerous or whatever. Those miracles can be open to anybody. I mean, it's just, I think we have access to more beauty in our lives than we realize. And also, people who have gone through trauma, correct me if I'm wrong, people pleaser in your life. What? No.
What? No.
Trauma, people pleasing, one and the same. But yeah, it's knowing that you have just as much right as anybody else to happiness. So,
yeah. And that, I don't know about you, like how long that took to get through my thick skull. Like, I've just started learning this probably since I got with my husband.
That's awesome.
This husband. Right? And man, that's a work in progress. Right?
That's incredible. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, it's still got to keep working, but still, it's just like, one phrase that I hate more than anything is, you have to love yourself before other people can love you. And I mean, I think you can, as perfectionists and people pleasers, I think it's hard I can't love myself completely. Oh, I'm never going to be worthy. I just feel like it's kind of it almost feels impossible. You know what I mean? But I think knowing that if you're not perfect, you're still deserving, because nobody's perfect. It's like, I'm still lovable. I'm not, I've got my flaws and stuff like that. I can still like myself. But I think there's just added pressure behind. I don't know. How do you feel about that phrase? Because I've never liked it.
I understand what you're saying, but the airplane put the mask on for anyone else, right? Like, and I've worked. I have to watch what I say. My old work. I've worked in where there could be emergency situations, and I've seen shit go down. Let's put it that way. So I know that part of it from, like,
a professional standpoint.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah, no, there's a reason for that. Right. Yeah, and we're doing it. As Heather, as a person, like, trying, and it comes from childhood, let's just be honest, and whatever happened to us, that I was always told, like, if I said, "Oh, I look really nice today," someone would say, "Well, you're not better than anybody." And it's not about being
Oh,
better than
yeah.
anybody, right? Or thinking that I got a big swollen head, or no, I'm not allowed, like, I should be happy, but I shouldn't be overly push it in your face that I'm that sort of
Right.
person. That's been a hard
Mhm.
balance. Like, so, but I'm learning now it's okay to toot my own horn. Doesn't make me an asshole
Right.
because I'm not doing
I
it in
love
an
it.
asshole kind of
Right. You're
way,
not putting others down while you're
right?
doing it. You're just saying, look, this is
No,
what I've
no.
experienced and this is what I'm good at. I want to share this or whatever. And you have the right to like want nice things. Like for my birthday, elementary example, but I went to Disney World and I loved it. Like, there's certain things I want to do. I'm like, let's just spend a little bit of money. I'm going to do this because I want to do it and I deserve it. So,
Yeah, right. And I think it can get there. Like, is it always going to be like a push-pull situation?
yeah.
Yes. I know for me it will be, right? Like, there's days where I'm like, hey, my hair looks good. Hey, my makeup looks good. Hey, I look like a normal human being today. Yay, I actually like who I am today. And then the next morning be like all down the shitter. So who knows, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So I've just learned to take, when I'm feeling good, I take it. I'm like, because I don't know if this is going to happen tomorrow.
right.
So I've learned just to go with it.
Yeah. And
And it doesn't make me a shitty person.
right. And yeah, we're allowed to evolve and have good and bad days and just enjoy being human and alive. Like, that's one thing is I think, actually, I know as a child, it's almost like I felt like if I did something wrong or if I had this weird sense of control where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's, I was constantly afraid that people were going to die. Like I was constantly praying and just like always on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop, like I said. And I think just being able I think that is a skill that we get to learn as we're having these experiences and witnessing these miracles, that it's okay to have faith and to let go. And it's not always, we're still going to have those things come up every now and then. We're going to want to kind of grab control again, but it's just, I think, feeling more and more comfortable in that space where we're enjoying life and allowing the humanness and just being like, oh, I'm getting older. That means hormones are changing. That kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, no, and it's, I've now just gotten to like, I don't give two shits what anyone thinks about me. I'm done trying to fit into a box, fit into society. You were talking about you did modeling, and I can see why, because you look like Belle from Beauty and the
You're
Beast.
so sweet. Thank you.
It took me forever to figure it out, and when you said Disney, like, she's Belle.
Thank you. My husband jokes around and says he's Gaston. So he's
so
big
funny.
burly. Anyway.
Yeah, right. And
thank you.
It's just I totally forgot what I was going to say now. I'm sorry.
Oh.
But yeah, like it's just, oh yeah, like I just don't care what people think anymore. Like whatever.
Yeah.
It's all right. Oh, I was going with the modeling.
Oh, thanks.
That's why. Because you try to fit into no, it's gerbil World Cup again. Trying to fit in a box and always being this and always being that, and even though you're being paid to be there because you are the talent, you are
still not good enough.
No, God no.
You're not good enough.
God no.
Nope. Got to do this. Got to do that. Got to do this. Yeah, I got into it old enough that it was still. It was a cool experience, but it's still. Like, do I encourage young women to get into it? Make sure you've got a good therapist on hand.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Yeah. No, it's. Yeah. It goes well until it doesn't.
Yeah.
We'll put it.
Yeah, exactly. And world comparison, and it's just there's a reason that you get to be the warrior that you are, is because it can get to a dangerous level quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Very.
So, and then you gain 10 pounds, and then you lose 10 pounds, and it's just a hideous existence.
Yeah, it's a hamster wheel of hell. Come on down.
Amusement park ride for eating disorders, right? Hamster wheel of hell.
Right? Yeah, no, and it's been so fast. And you probably know this too. It's just, no matter what side of the spectrum, like, because mentioned, right? Like I've been 22, negative 22. I know the voice is still the voice, right? Slick on up in there is still having a good time, right? It just depends what side of the road you're on, but it still
Oh,
sucks
he'll
no
sit there
matter
and scream
what.
at you no matter what. Oh, come on, just if you, oh, you know
Yep.
what, you look great, and wow, yeah, congratulations for fitting in that, or congratulations, you actually put on some weight, but there's still this at your core.
There's still
Yeah.
this. And I've said it, it's like chasing a rainbow. No one ever gets to the rainbow, right? And the rainbow always moves. The rainbow will always move. And it just, a snowball's an avalanche, man. And I just don't think people get how fast this can
Spiral
spin,
out of control.
spiral out
Yeah.
of control. And it's a domino effect, affects everyone around you, right? And then, but then some of us come out of it and get podcasts and get to talk to awesome people like you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this has been, I've been excited to meet with you. So no, I'm honored that you invited me. So it's really, I'm excited.
Well, I have a friend in the South now, so now I'm really excited.
Come on out.
I will.
Seriously, just watch. There's different seasons. Don't come out in January. It's only like to get tornadoes. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Okay, no, I'll wait.
Don't come out in January. But no, it's seriously. Let me know. It's awesome out here. That would be kind of cool to do some kind of little retreat. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's in the future. A retreat, healing retreat.
Speaking, you love taps. Connect with. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see what other kind of organizations, no pun intended, that could be tapped into, But seriously, for people either, I don't know if eating disorders, if that's a slippery slope, or trauma, I know A Reason to Stand, she doesn't do as much, but she's still, I don't know. I think post-COVID, I think more things are coming out and more events. Yeah. And I think it would be cool. You'd be a great speaker because you're like, this is where I've been. I mean, you're already doing the podcast and stuff like that. But anyway, just throwing out ideas.
Oh, well, that's kind of you.
No, seriously.
You've never seen me like in front of people. That might be like Hurricane.
I doubt it. No, I'm supposed to learn how. I mean, I am a speaker. I do speaking, but I started speaking right before COVID. Sort of, we didn't have as many opportunities, so we'll see what happens.
So, one last little shout out to TAPS because I just think like amazing. So I'll link everything in the bio to go find TAPS. And when your book is ready to go, we'll have you back where we can really get into it because I don't want the U.S. military mad at me. I got enough people in my own country mad at me. Jeez, that's all I need. They're going to know I'm coming.
Like, wait a minute.
You're
like, I'm safe. I'm over here.
Yeah, right.
Have fun over there.
God.
No, you're like, you want to go to Arlington. No, it's not the military. It's just more, it's the publishers. We're trying to get, but yeah, anyway, sorry. But, I would love to. I mean, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. It's all good. No, like just, you have so much knowledge and so much of a gift to give that like, I just would love I could talk to you. I know.
I'm like, this is fun. No, I'd love to be back on. I'd be honored. I'd absolutely be honored to be on, and especially as more things are coming up. But like, right now, your listeners can get a free copy of my book. When is it going to come out? We're working on it. I don't know exactly when, but there's a lot more to it. Like my website is angelinarlington.com. So my dad was buried in Arlington, so angelinarlington.com. There's a free chapter on there. There are some blog posts and things like that. It's after getting married and all the craziness, and work and stuff like that, I'm able to focus a little bit more on building it. But that's where you can find more information on, the things that I'm passionate about, my story, things that little gems that I've come across with to share to help people get out of hell. Yeah, so that's where you can find me, and there'll be more information coming up and stuff. So, but yeah, I would love to be on your podcast again. This has been fun. So,
I would love to have you back. And if you don't mind me asking a question,
absolutely.
could we give a shout out to your dad? What was your dad's name?
It's Burr Johnson III.
Well, Dad, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
He looks like a great man, and he's there.
Oh my gosh, he is. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for remembering him. His birthday is March 24th, and the anniversary, the day he died, is the 27th. So it's coming up. So it's a beautiful time for me now. It really is. So thank you.
Well, a very handsome man from what I
yes,
can
he
see
is.
there.
Here,
Like,
let's see. Can I show?
yeah, give him a close up.
Okay,
Here,
there we
Dad.
go. Yes.
Oh, see, a man in a
Yeah. He has
a man in a
hazel
uniform.
blue eyes. Yep. It didn't take him much. It didn't take him much convincing to get my mom. So.
No kid.
Yeah.
Handsome.
Yeah. He's awesome. So, thank you so much for honoring my dad and my family.
Well, thank you.
So.
Anytime.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Hey, I'm excited to talk to you more. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're coming back. I'm like glitter. And it's not because of my shiny personality.
The herpes of art and craft. No, just kidding.
Yes.
Sorry, excuse me. That's what I've always.
No.
That was.
No, you know.
That's awesome. I love it. All right, glitter.
That's all for this episode of 1% Better. To continue the conversation, head over to our website at www.1percentbetter.ca, where you can access more stories and resources. We'd also love it if you subscribed and left us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember, friends, progress takes patience, perspective, and sometimes a little help from people who get it. So be kind to yourself and others as we work to get 1% better every day. We'll see you back here next week.